Welcome to another episode of Fill in the Blank podcast. You're already stretching and doing push-ups to Sean. What are you doing with yourself? Waking yourself up?
Yeah, my back. I should have went to the chiropractor today.
You don't need a chiropractor. You know what you need? You need Jesus. But not just Jesus. You need UFOlogy. Do you know what we're talking about today?
Oh, yeah. We're talking about some interesting shit.
We are talking about Heaven's Gate. What comes to your mind when I say Heaven's Gate, my brother?
Well, if you don't know the story, you would think about Jesus. You would think about
the gates of heaven
being lifted up and seeing the one and only.
You've seen the light.
But not this one.
This light comes from a UFO and some aliens coming down and saying, "How you doing, son?"
And the only gate you'll see open is the one from the UFO.
Yeah. The gates, the portals to what? The Netherlands?
Wherever.
Well, let's talk about Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate was an American UFO religious millenarian cult based near San Diego, California. It was founded in 1974 and led by Marshall Applewhite, 1931 to 1997. He died in my birth year.
Applewhite. Don't trust anyone with any name Applewhite.
And not even their partner, Bonnie Nettles, who lived from 1927 to 1985.
Why would you trust anybody? Why would you trust those two?
They sound like they could make a cereal.
They probably did.
Applewhite and Nettles.
Come on, man.
Maybe Nettle is the Nestle company and Applewhite is the Frosted Apple Jacks.
That's what it might be.
Well, on March 26, 1997, police discovered the bodies of 39 members of the group in a house in a suburb of Rancho Santa Fe. They apparently had participated in a mass suicide in order to reach what they believed was an extraterrestrial spacecraft following Comet Hale-Bopp.
They got there.
They got there on that comet.
Yeah, they got there.
They rode that Flash Gordon into the Netherlands. But just before the suicide, the group's website was updated with the message, Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level, we are happily prepared to leave this world and go with T.I.'s crew.
What? They really put that on the website?
That was their website message before they all killed themselves.
Oh, and no one ever
anything?
noticed
All 39 people were committed? Because right now, what do you picture in your mind at this
Not
meeting?
at all.
Do you picture a bunch of people with
I don't picture them holding
hats?
hands.
I picture the aluminum hats.
Something.
And like everyone's wearing like a white coat and the leader's wearing a question mark one.
I feel like everyone, they all each killed herself. Say you stab me, then I stab you.
39 is a weird number.
It is.
Maybe there was
more.
There's probably like 40 and the one guy's like about to take a sip and everyone just dies and he's like,
I
don't like Kool-Aid that much. Like,
that's what they're doing.
Maybe they just wanted the actual Kool-Aid, not the poisonous one.
I was just thirsty.
Well, let's talk about the history of this little cult. So, the son of a Presbyterian minister and a former soldier, Marshall Applewhite, began his foray into biblical prophecy in the early 1970s after being fired from the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas, over an alleged relationship with one of his male students. He met Bonnie Nettles, a 44-year-old married nurse with an interest in theophilosophy and biblical prophecy in March 1972. Okay, I really want to ask you this question because you're a military man yourself. What do you see what do you hear and like what comes to your mind when someone that was a respected former soldier, Marshall Applewhite, took this journey into Heaven's Gate and led these people false prophet? Now, can you chalk that up to the people that make the mistakes of leading someone into battle and then getting ambushed and getting all his men killed?
But maybe it's something psychologically wrong with him. Maybe he has seen war. Maybe it altered him and his brain and the way it functions, rewired it completely.
So you're going into think like trauma from war created a perceptual
maybe CTE,
thing on his mind.
Maybe PTSD. It could be a combination of different things.
Well, here we go. According to Applewhite's writings, the two met in a psychiatric hospital where she worked during his stay there and quickly became close friends.
There he is.
Applewhite later recalled that he felt he had known Nettles for a long time. So she worked there and he seemed to be a patient. He included that they met in a past life. She told him their meeting had been foretold to her by extraterrestrials, persuading him that he had a divine assignment.
What?
Applewhite and Nettles pondered the life of St. Francis of Assisi, read words by author including Helena Blavatsky, R.D. Lang, and Richard Bach. They kept a King James Bible with them and studied several passages from the New Testament, focusing on teachings and Christology, asceticism, and eschatology. Applewhite also read science fiction, including works by Robert A. Heinlein and Arthur C. Clarke. By June 1974, Applewhite and Nettles held beliefs into solidified into a basic outline. They concluded that they had been chosen to fulfill biblical prophecies and they had been given a higher level minds than other people.
If I could, I feel like when people read the Bible, certain people they take away from what they want to take away from it and they alter it to fit whatever their needs are.
Well, the whole idea,
You know?
you take away things that fit your best narrative.
Exactly. And you take it for what it is. Oh, God said he gonna forgive me for everything, so I'm gonna go kill this nigga tonight. I'm gonna kill him tonight, and then I'm gonna be.
Whoa, that language on this podcast. No matter,
I mean, I'm just saying
they can't see you, so they don't know.
I'm sorry, but it drives me crazy because so many people are like that. Oh, it's okay. I love my wife, but I'm gonna go cheat on her tonight. God will forgive me. That's not how it works, you know.
That's the same thing with General Butt Naked. I always bring up. You ever hear about him?
No.
The warlord that kept in Africa that believed that he had to consume the hearts and stuff of babies and his enemies, and then the only reason why he conformed into Christianity because he saw Jesus and said that he had to repent for his sins. But he still believes he was wrong, and he believes that he should be punished for his stuff. But people think since he's went into Christian, and he does a bunch of stuff to help get kids that are fighting in wars down there off the streets. He spent millions of dollars of his own money.
I don't judge. That's up to God. So
exactly.
That's between him and
what happens when you get to Heaven's
Jesus.
Gate. Hopefully it's not a bunch of extraterrestrials.
Hopefully not.
And there's just 39 people sitting in there having fun like, we were right, guys.
Hopefully it's not aliens pissing from the fingertips.
That was a good movie, Scary Movie 3, man. Guess we're not so different, you and I.
That's funny, bro.
That's crazy. Well, they actually wrote a pamphlet that described Jesus' reincarnation as a Texan and thinly veiled reference to Applewhite.
You see, this is what I'm talking about.
Putting yourself in religion, making yourself the God. Furthermore, they concluded that they were two witnesses described in the book of Revelation and occasionally visited churches or other spiritual groups to speak of their identities, referencing them to individuals as the two or the UFO two. They believed that they would be killed and then restored to life and in view of others, transported onto a spaceship. This event, which they referred to as a demonstration, was to prove their claims to dismay. These ideas were poorly received by existing religious communities. So I feel like the ones that are susceptible to kind of bullshit in a way are the ones like in the religious circle that were hearing the stories and the guy goes, yeah, that's me in the Bible they're talking about. Because you have to think.
Yeah, you have a nice day. And then walk away.
The whole narrative of Jesus. You think there weren't people, like he had followers and people that were following him back in the day. Yeah. I came back to life. Did anybody have proof besides this man's word?
It's a sticky situation as well because
he led a whole group of people. I feel like everyone's looking to follow somebody in a way.
And the word is altered anyway. The Bible that we read now is not the same Bible that was presented and written back then. So I don't know.
The Bible is a creative work of man.
Exactly. Jesus didn't write that.
Yeah, and it's like people follow it so blindly, and it's the problem in society today. We're so easily blinded. Like with kids these days, they seem like whatever gets popularized on television, they have to copy and be a follower to.
That's why I hate that these mumble rappers are coming up.
Because all the kids want to inspire to do that.
Cool, understand. You do your thing, but don't. You know,
you feel like they're dissing drugs, the art in a type of way.
Not even that, just the messages to give out. You know, I know this is like sidebar, but just if you have that platform, use it for good. oh, blah, 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 selling drugs, blah, 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 taking Xannies, and then kids are taking Xannies or wherever else. But the same thing with this, though, because, like I said earlier, people take things out of content and then they make it their own.
Well, what's the idea of the whole aspect of this being popularized on television, this whole religion, and then we're okay with Christianity, seeing that as the right, that's a more serious topic, but some dude that believes so heavily into this, it's all about the power to believe,
the fact that people,
the willing to believe.
The fact that people believed him and followed him blindly and didn't question him because he would say, oh yeah, God sent me here. I'm one of God's angels. And this is what he wants us to do. And if you're so devoted, or you believe that you're so devoted, of course, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus. He did send you. Let's all go kill ourselves. No.
Eventually, Applewhite and Nettles resolved to contact extraterrestrials, and they sought like-minded followers. They published advertisements for meetings where they recruited disciples whom they called the Crew. At the events, they purported to the... Yeah, it sounds like a rap group.
Crew.
You see rap group being like NWA,
Crew.
like
All
Heaven's
39
Gate.
of them.
Heaven's Gate.
That could be the first album. Heaven's Gate. The Crew presents Heaven's Gate.
Now, would they be a Temptations type of group, or would they be like all playing different space instruments?
The Backstreet Boys. Blackstreet. I don't know what type of. Who knows?
Well, besides these advertisements, they would at these events they purported to represent beings from another planet, the next level, who sought participants for an experiment. They stated that those who agreed to take part in the experiment would be brought to a higher evolutionary level. In 1975, during a group meeting with 80 people in Joan Culper's Studio City home, they shared their simulations, simultaneous revelations, where they had been told they were two witnesses written into the Bible story of the end time. Later in 1975, the Crew assembled at a hotel in Waldport, Oregon, after selling all worldly possessions and saying farewell to loved ones. The group vanished from the hotel and from the public eye. That night on the CBS Evening News, Walter Cronkite reported that the group had disappeared in one of the very first national reports on the devolving religious group. A score of persons have disappeared. It's a mystery whether they have been taken on a so-called trip to eternity or simply been taken. In reality, Applewhite and Nettles had arranged for the group to go underground from the point Do and T, pronounced Doe and T, as the two now called themselves, led the nearly 100-member crew across the country, sleeping in tents and sleeping bags and begging in the streets. Evading detection by authorities and media enabled the group to focus on the Do and T's doctrine of helping members of the crew achieve a higher evolutionary level above human, to which they claim to have already reached. So they're going around speaking false prophets to people, letting them know that you could be on this next evolutionary level.
And the way that they did it was they said that they were in the Bible. Like, what?
They believe they were called Do and T, the two that were chosen by the UFO extraterrestrial ancestors.
So how do you get Jesus and
I'm not going to lie. This is like that ad that tells people they can lose weight fast by doing a specific thing, like eating nothing but butter. You'll lose weight fast.
Like, what?
It's like there are people that are susceptible to things of that sort.
I wonder what type of... If these people were from a psychiatric ward too, I wonder.
Applewhite and Nettles used a variety of aliases over the years, notably Bo and Peep, and Do and T. The group also had a variety of names. Prior to the adoption of the name Heaven's Gate and its time, the study group, it was known as the Human Individual Metamorphosis, the HIM. The group reinvented the name and renamed itself several times and had a variety of recruitment methods. Applewhite believed that he was directly related to Jesus, meaning he was an evolutionary kingdom level above human. See, now, if a cult came up to me talking about UFOs and said they were known as the Human Individual Metamorphosis Program, I probably would believe them and believe that might be an
I
actual thing. But when you go around calling yourself Heaven's Gate, I sense a Christianity type theme, and my mind does not wrap around the religion of Christianity, so that's why they might have lost me as a follower.
Why would people believe? It's so frustrating because all these people lost their life.
Do you believe Moses parted the sea with a staff? Really? When he talks about burning bush, scientists have chalked that up to the
ayahuasca.
It's the acacia tree, which gives strong visions, like a lot like peyote or something does. So that might.
They were definitely on mushrooms or something as well.
Maybe these people are on a form of mushroom from
I
Saturn.
Oh, man. From Saturn.
Heaven's Gate came down, the aliens, and gave them a little bit of mushroom.
Man, where you get these mushrooms from? Saturn?
Yeah. Not cow shit. So, wow. Applewhite's writings, which combined aspects of millennialism and ghostinicism. It's a science fiction, suggests he believed himself to be Jesus' successor and the present representative of Christ on earth. That is a taboo subject. If you did that now, wow. You know how people would string you up by your toes.
I can't even believe.
Well, Dew and T taught during the religious movement early beginnings that
makes me so mad.
Dew's bodily vehicle was inhabited by the same alien spirit which belonged to Jesus. Likewise, T, also who was known as Nettles, was presented as God the Father. So Dew was the vehicle. So the one guy, Applewhite, is known as Dew, and T is known as Nettles. So the bodily vehicle which inhabited an alien spirit that belonged to Jesus. So the predecessor of Jesus was known as Applewhite. And then Nettles called himself T, who presented himself as God the Father. So T seems like the major religious person, which is weird because T, known as Nettles, worked at the psychiatric hospital that Applewhite was going to.
So that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's where he met her. She worked there. He was a patient there. He became the vehicle that was her giant inspirational movement and biblical idea.
So she worked at the psychiatric hospital.
She worked there as a nurse.
When she should have been a patient.
She probably should have been a patient.
What if she was a previous patient who got
I'm putting these puzzle pieces together and I'm understanding the whole confliction between this might be a form of a mental disorder.
I can only understand 39 people willingly ready to take their life if there's something mentally wrong.
There was 40 for sure. One guy was like, I'm not.
Well, it said they took 100 people.
Wait, we're killing ourselves? I'm fucking out of here, man.
Yeah.
I have a good life.
They said that he took 100 people, right?
No, he took
with him.
I think we're gonna get to it, but I think he took a small group. But the crew used numerous methods of recruitment as they toured the United States in destitution, proclaiming the gospel of higher-level metamorphosis. The seat of humans by false god spirits enveloped with sunlight for meditative healing, and the divinity of the UFO too. Okay, if you preach that to me, or said it in those terms, this is the whole idea of using large, sophisticated words to be able to sound smart. So if I used a bunch of things trying to preach to you the acts of some type of UFO religion, but I use a bunch of words disguising it and making it sound like I read a dictionary, someone from the South or someone that is like not very educated, like some type of like maybe rural farm area, is gonna definitely believe in this. You know what I mean? Like, he uses fancy words, and he drives a Prius, and the elements of the history in the words.
Oh my goodness!
Like saying stuff like that. Like, well, throughout the late 1970s and the early 80s, as their belief system developed around the cult of personalities, great lyric. Membership grew. Some sociologists agree that the popular movement of alternative religious movements of individualism found in collective spiritual experiences during that period helped contribute to the growth of this new religious movement known as Shiliism, and it became known as a way of people to merge their diverse religion backgrounds and coerce around a shared generalized faith, which followers of new religious sects like Applewhite's crew found a very appetizing alternative to the traditional dogmas in Judaism, Catholicism, and evangelical Christianity. Many of Applewhite and Nettles' crew hailed from those very diverse backgrounds. Most of them are described by researchers as having been long-time truth seekers or spiritual hippies who had long since believed in attempting to find themselves through spiritual means, combining faiths in a sort of cultural millennia, well into the mid 80s. So, I mean, it's the whole idea. One of my favorite games I used to play as a kid, Destroy All Humans. It was based in around the time of Woodstock, so you get to pick up all these hippies with mind powers and kill these humans. What's the difference between if you're an alien killing humans, it's fine, but then it's looked at as wrong if you're an alien killing humans?
I don't know, but I feel like that these people could have definitely been saved, some way or another.
But it's weird to think that you can kill a human if you're placed in like a being that's not a human. That you can kill something that's not like yourself. I guess that's why hunting is so popular.
Yeah, I think that's why.
Well, when you look at, however remarkably, how many members of the researchers note that not all of Applewhite's crew were hippies recruited from far left alternative religious backgrounds. In fact, one such recruit early on was John Craig, a respected Republican running for the Colorado House of Representatives at the time of joining in 1975.
Who's that?
A guy named John Craig, who's a Republican, running for the House of Representatives, 1975. As recruit numbers grew in the pre-internet days, the clan of UFO followers all seemed to have a common need for communal belonging in an alternative path to the higher existence without the constraints of institutionalized faith. So that's a beautiful movement. So
that part of it is.
However, it was not until the death of Nettles in 1985 that Applewhite's subsequent revision of the group's doctrines had that thought that the crew had gained an eventual reputation as cyber culture, form of religious thought reform. By the mid-1990s, the group actually had become reclusive, identifying themselves using the business name Higher Source and using their website to proselytize and recruit followers. Rumors began spreading throughout the group in the following years that the upcoming Comet Hale Bop housed the secret to their ultimate salvation and ascendance into the kingdom of heaven. In 1996, members of Dew's clan took their internet recruitment and technical savviness to new levels in a large home they called the Monastery, a 9,000 square foot residence in Rancho Santa Fe near San Diego, California. The home would eventually become a gathering place for the group's final siren call and the closure to Heaven's Gate, that the return of Hale Bop Comet signified, as the group's website used to read. So some media coverage on the event. Known to the mainstream media through largely ignored through the 1980s and 90s, Heaven's Gate was better known in UFO circles as well in a series of academic studies by sociologist Robert Balk. Coast to Coast AM host Art Bell featured Heaven's Gate in the companion object in the shadow of Hale Bop on several programs. Robert Balk, the guy who's on Coast to Coast AM, is the same guy that talked about Bigfoot.
He's still alive today?
This is all around the same time period, 1980s. So Heaven's Gate received coverage in Jacques Vall's book Messengers of Deception in 1975, which in Vallée described an unusual public meeting organized by the group, frequently expressed concerns with the book about contactee groups' authoritarian political and religious outlooks, and Heaven's Gate did not escape criticism. Louis Theroux contacted the Heaven's Gate group while making a program for his BBC Two documentary series Louis Theroux's Weird Weekends in early March 1997, so the same year the people killed themselves. In response to his email, Theroux was told that Heaven's Gate could not take part in the documentary at the present time or project because it would interfere with their focus that they had on, which later he found out was their suicide. So let's talk about the suicide. On March 19th to 20th, 1997, Marshall Applewhite taped himself speaking of a mass suicide and asserted it was the only way to evacuate this Earth, after claiming that a spacecraft was trailing Comet Hale Bop. You say psychopath.
Sad, man.
When you say psychopath or you say sad, his whole aspect of leaving this earth. You know, there's a church right now, there's a cult group called the Church of Euthanasia. Do you know what euthanasia is?
I've heard
Putting
certain.
someone to sleep.
Okay.
It's illegal to do to humans.
How long do they sleep for?
You're dead. That's how they kill you. They believe doing that to old people.
I never heard of that.
When you go to put your dog down or put your animal
That's
down,
what they do?
that's euthanasia. You're euthanizing your animal. Like all the pets at the shelter, they don't
So
get
why do
adopted.
they call it euthanasia?
Because they're going to sleep forever. Euthanasia is a form of, like, it's another word for sleep.
Wow.
But like they believe in bringing that back in old retirement homes. They believe if someone's on the end of death or whatever. There was that guy that was like 107 years old and his body wasn't working and he wanted to be euthanized. And he actually got it passed by the courts.
I thought that they had like some technology or something that they're coming out to where they can create shells of ourselves.
Talk about Avatar.
No,
There's 5 of those movies coming out. You gotta wait.
No, it's like an actual body type. Like you can transfer.
Transference.
Yeah, you can transfer your
mind into another body.
Yeah, I'm looking for a different word, not mind. Your conscience. You can transfer your conscience into a different shell.
That's the whole idea of the movie Transcendence with Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
it's all bullshit. Applewhite persuaded 38 followers to commit suicide on their souls that could bear the supposed craft. Applewhite believed that after their deaths they would be picked up by a UFO. So there's not 40 people. He only had 38 followers, and then 39 considering himself.
Oh, okay, I see.
You gotta add the leader, man. You think he's not gonna drink the punch? Everybody was probably like, "I'm not drinking this shit until you drink it."
Yeah.
So then
you're drinking it first.
Imagine if he kept it in his mouth or threw it back up, and then everyone else is like dead. Or maybe he sees everybody drink it first.
Now he's going around all different countries and neighborhoods trying to get people to do this shit.
This and other UFO-related beliefs held by the group have led some observers to characterize the group as a UFO religion. In October 1996, the group purchased alien abduction insurance that would cover up to 50 members and would pay out $1 million per person. That policy covered abduction, impregnation, or death by aliens.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's funny as shit.
You can laugh at that. They did it a year before they committed suicide, and it was up to 50 members, thinking that they were going to get an additional 11 members added to their group to be on the policy. But everyone gets $1 million? Where did that money go when everybody was dead?
To their families. Hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope there's something out of it. Honestly, if you got to think of one of your family members believing in something like this and killing themselves over that.
Let's picture that, man.
Just keep the money. I don't want the money.
Why would you want to take
the money? That's dumbass money. Well, the group rented a 9,200 square foot mansion located near 18314 Carolina Norte.
Do you think
later changed to Paso Victoria. What?
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
You're good.
You think that property's haunted? Sure.
With probably 39 or 38 individuals.
People just want to go home.
That are like, where's the fucking UFO?
Yeah, they just want to rest.
Well, in a gated community of an upscale home in San Diego area community of Rancho Santa Fe, from paying $7,000 per month in cash to keep the mansion active until their arrival to it and their decided fate.
How much was it?
$7,000 per month.
Wow.
So 38 Heaven's Gate members plus group leader Applewhite were found dead in the home on March 26, 1997 in the heat of the California spring. They just had to add that in the article. Many of the bodies had begun to decompose by the time they were discovered. The bodies were later cremated. They didn't... Why wouldn't you... You would think like if there was like a Elon Musk type person that could shuttle their bodies into space to at least kind of commit to their prophecy, not just burn them, turn them into ash and leave them on the earth. Like that's the one thing they want to do. They want to escape here.
It's too late. We're already gone.
Well, members took phenylnorphylbarbitamine mixed with applesauce. Applewhite, you son of a gun, you're using applesauce as a weapon. And they washed it all down with vodka. Additionally, they seemed plastic bags around their heads after ingesting the mix to induce asphyxiation. Authorities found the dead lying neatly in their own bunk beds, faces and torsos covered by a square purple cloth. Each member carried a $5 bill and 3/4 in their pockets. The $5 bill was to cover vagrancy fines while members were out on jobs, while the quarters were to make phone calls. All 39 were dressed in identical black shirts and sweatpants, brand new black and white Nike Decade athletic shoes, and armband patches reading Heaven's Gate Away Team, one of many instances used in the group's use of the Star Trek fictional universal's nomenclature. They bought a nice pair of brand new white Nike Decade athletic shoes. Why would you wear shoes and buy them brand? I mean, I guess you don't need money anymore, but the whole idea. Someone's just going to come in your house and loot your body and take your shoes. He got my Jordans.
Why would you want to do that?
Got my Jordans. The adherents between the ages of 26 and 72 are believed to have died in 3 groups over 3 consecutive days. So they all didn't die at once. They all died at different times. Imagine that. Imagine, like,
I can't.
John up in the bunk above you is dead. And he's been dead for like 2 days. And you're like, when is this going to happen to me? 15 members died on March 24th. 15 more on March 25th. And 9 on March 26th. Leader Applewhite was the third to last member to die. 2 people remained after him and were the only ones found without bags over their heads. Among the dead was Thomas Nicholas, brother of the actress Nichelle Nichols, who is best known for her role in Uhura in the original Star Trek television series.
Oh, I don't watch Star Trek.
I'm a Star Wars fan too, don't worry. Aftermath. The Heaven's Gate event was widely publicized and the media was an example of a mass suicide. When news broke of the suicides and their relation to Comet Hale-Bopp, the co-discoverer of the comet, Alan Hale, was drawn into the story. Hale's phone never stopped ringing that entire day. He did not respond until the next day when he spoke at a press conference on the subject only after researching details of the incident. Speaking at the Second World Skeptics Congress in Heidelberg, Germany on July 24, 1998, Dr. Hale discussed the scientific significance and popular lore of comets and gave a personal account of his discovery. He then lambasted the combination of scientific illiteracy with delusions, a radio talk show's deception, and an imaginary spacecraft following the comet, and a cult of bizarre yearnings for ascending to another level of existence that led to Heaven Gate's mass suicide, not his comet.
You know?
So, I mean, you definitely discover a comet. You don't want someone chalking it up to a belief that it killed a bunch of people.
That's what we want to watch out for, are comets.
Comets. They're the real bringers of UFO history.
That's it.
Hale said that well before Heaven's Gate, he told a colleague, "We are probably going to have some suicides as a result of this comet. The sad part is that I really was not surprised. Comets are lovely objects, but they don't have apocalyptic significance. We must nimble our minds for our own reason." So it's the whole fact, like, he thought since his comet was coming, like, that it was going to be, like, it was going to obviously have suicides once he discovered it and made it public to the world, because people would think it's an apocalypse that's going to hit us. I mean, that's one scary thing, that we have this object coming from space. The whole movie Armageddon's about. But instead, these people did a religious cult. So, I mean, it seems like the whole aspect of it, Heaven's Gate, is really believable, man. I mean, the whole belief system that members believe that the planet Earth was about to be recycled, wiped clean, renewed, and, like, the whole idea of it, of the evolutionary level above humans, the TELAH, was a physical, corporeal place, another world in our universe, where residents live in pure bliss and nourish themselves by absorbing pure sunlight. At the next level, beings do not engage in sexual intercourse, eating or dying, the things that make us mammalian here. Heaven's Gate believe that the Bible calls God is actually a highly developed extraterrestrial. This is their whole belief system. So the Heaven Gate members, they believe that the Earth was going to be wiped clean. The only chance is to leave it immediately While the group was against suicide, they defined suicide in their own context to mean to
They were
turn
against
against
it.
the next level when it was being offered. So they believed it was ridiculous if you were going to turn it away from it joining into the next level of the world. They believed that your vehicle or your person was just a vehicle and it was routinely needed to be maintenance, which meant it needed to go to the next evolutionary standard, the next Tesla upgrade.
How come no one tried to help these people? That's what I'm really mad about that because okay,
What can you do to help someone that's
they have
dealing with
families they
this?
need to go home to. 39 people didn't go home to their families. Their loved ones don't know where they were, where they went. And
How do you
there's
how do you treat somebody with a disorder, a giant mental disorder? When you're treating someone with schizophrenia, how do you know how their mind's thinking? How do you know how to perceive it? It's really, really difficult to
You're right.
understand.
You're right, but
You can't convince me that there's a God out there if I've never seen it myself. So it's just like doing the same thing with that. How am I going to convince someone that aliens are real if I have no proof or no evidence?
exactly. No videos, nothing.
So members of Heaven's Gate believe that the evil space aliens called Luciferians falsely represented themselves to Earthlings as God and conspired to keep humans from developing. Technically advanced humanoids, these aliens have spacecraft, space-time travel, telepathy, and increased longevity. They use holograms to fake miracles. Carnal beings with gender they stopped training to achieve the kingdom of gods 1,000 years ago. Heaven's Gate believed that all existing religions on Earth had been corrupted by these male violent aliens. Although these basic beliefs of the group stayed generally consistent over the years, the details of their ideology were flexible enough to undergo modification over time. Their example of the groups adding to or slightly changing their beliefs, such as modifying the way one can enter the next level, changing the way they describe themselves, placing more importance on the idea of Satan, and adding several other New Age concepts. One of these concepts was the belief of extraterrestrial walk-ins. When the group began, Applewhite and Nettles taught their followers that they were extraterrestrial beings. However, after the notion of walk-ins became popular within the New Age subculture, the two changed their tune and began describing themselves as extraterrestrial walk-ins. So they went from being the followers and these two like leaders from the Bible to being extraterrestrial beings from another planet that had the evolutionary upgrade in a way. That's ridiculous to think that two guys that sound like they should have made a serial thing.
What are you doing? Say.
Would I join a crazy UFO cult?
Say I'm sent down from heaven, and me and 40 other people, we have this UFO, and it's coming this day, this time. Would you come follow me?
Do you have a UFO?
No.
Do you have any evidence to prove that you own a spaceship?
No.
Do you have anything from the other side I can see?
No.
Do you have any probes?
Nope.
Do you have any technology that is from your age?
Nope.
No.
Cell phones.
I don't like Kool-Aid that much to drink it.
That's what I'm saying. That's how I know that there's something psychologically wrong with these
What
people.
color Kool-Aid?
Purple.
Fuck that.
You don't like the purple one?
Grape? I don't know.
Yeah, purple's a great one, but
I
we
like
call
the
it
red
purple.
one.
Red one's a classic.
It's like fruit punch.
Oh. Yeah.
Now, do you prefer the Kool-Aid man or the fruit punch guy?
I like the oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like him.
I don't even know what the other guy's called.
I don't need it, but that guy's
High C or Kool-Aid?
that guy's
Hawaiian.
a legend.
He is a legend. He's a Hawaiian
Kool-Aid
person.
man.
Another New Age belief that Applewhite and Nettles adopted was the ancient astronaut hypothesis. The term ancient astronauts is used to refer to various forms of the concept that extraterrestrials visited Earth in the distant past. Applewhite and Nettles took part of this concept and taught it as a belief that aliens planted the seeds of current humanity millions of years ago and have to come to reap the harvest of their work in the form of spiritually evolved individuals who will join the ranks of the flying saucer crews.
Yeah, what was it?
Only a select few of members of humanity will be chosen to advance the transhuman state. The rest will be left to wallow in their spirituality poisoned atmosphere of a corrupt world. Only the individuals who chose to join Heaven's Gate, follow Applewhite and Nettles' belief system, and make the sacrifices required by membership would be allowed to escape human suffering. So what's the techniques to enter the next level. We have the listed techniques of what they would have to do. According to Heaven's Gate,
I don't know if I'm ready
once
for
the
this
individual has perfected himself through the process,
one.
there were 4 methods to enter or graduate into the next level. Number 1 is physical pickup onto a TELAH spacecraft and transferred to the next body level aboard the craft. In this version, what Professor Zeller calls a UFO, it would be called as the Rapture. An alien spacecraft would descend to Earth, collect Applewhite Nettles and their followers, and their human bodies would be transformed through biological and chemical processes to perfected beings. 2. Natural death or accidental death or death from random violence. Here the graduating soul leaves the human container for a perfected next level body. 3. Outside persecution that leads to death. After the deaths of the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, and the events involving Randy Weaver at Ruby Ridge, Applewhite was afraid that the American government would murder the members of Heaven's Gate. 4. Willful exit from the body in a dignified manner. Near the end, Applewhite had a revelation that they had made to abandon their human bodies and achieve the next level as Jesus had done. This occurred on March 22nd and 23rd when 39 members committed suicide and graduated. So the last but not least is the structure. Only open to adults over the age of 18. That's a good requirement. You can't be under the age of 18 to join the cult. Group members gave up their possessions and lived a highly aesthetic life devoid of many indulgences. The group was tightly knit and everything was shared communally. And public members also carried away a $5 bill and 1 roll of quarters. 8 of the male members of the group, including Applewhite, voluntarily underwent castration in Mexico as an extreme means of maintaining the aesthetic lifestyle. The group earned revenues by offering professional website development for paying clients under the business name Higher Source. The cultural theorist Paul Vertilio had described the group as a cyber sect due to its heavy reliance on computer-mediated communication as a mode of communication prior to the group's collective suicide. So wrapping up Heaven's Gate, what is your takeaway from Heaven's Gate?
I really wish that
it didn't happen.
Yes, this whole episode has been so emotional because people, they just took their life, and they believed it was for a higher calling.
Do you believe the whole aspect of, it was a bunch of people that in some people's eyes would be seen like, oh, that's good that they're gone because they were a waste if they believed in something like that. But what's to judge someone's belief on what we call a religious group or a religion based on our view of our own religion?
That's true, but I'm not really basing it off the religion, just the fact that they killed themselves.
Crazy stuff happens through history, man.
But even like you said, in history, back in medieval times, they used to, like we talked about before the podcast, that they used to kill each other. Not kill each other, but they would have these games, and whoever won the games, they were killed.
It's just
the winner was killed.
It's just hard to think 60 years ago this was a thing. This happened 60 years ago.
And it's probably still happening today somewhere.
Our parents have heard about this.
I know. That's how I heard about it.
Not even 60 years ago.
It was on the news.
It happened in 1997. That was 20-something years ago.
I thought it was 1970 something.
No, that was when the cult started. They all killed themselves in 1997. So this is 20 years ago.
It was on the news and everything.
It's literally as old as I am.
That is crazy.
So
it's such a disturbing story.
Hopefully there's people where we're educating ourselves a little bit, or maybe just feel like, there is a church of euthanasia, like I said, that believes in the whole idea. Their whole motto is kill yourself because Jesus said so.
Yeah.
Then there's 200 members that follow that. Now that's more than this group had.
And that's pretty much the startup group.
Yeah.
Was this Heaven's Gate.
It's paving the way for what some people can consider dumb and what some people consider just being fed up with Earth's problems.
Idiotic.
Now, leaving in this, I wanted people to research this event themselves and try and get their own little factual evidence and at least know it, because this is in anybody that's alive today this is in our like recent history. Like
Yeah.
this is something not like World War II or World War One. This is in our like right in the last 20 years basically. And take your own takeaway from this. Do you see it as a beneficial movement, or do you see it as a way of just dealing with Earth's problems and just being like, I'm fed up with it all?
Just talk to somebody.
Or just get a hug.
Yeah,
Go
man.
do something for yourself.
Eat a Snickers.
Yeah, don't kill yourself and join a UFO cult. If a man offers you punch, make sure it's not poison first. Well, thanks for being on this episode of Fill in the Blank, Deshaun, and
Thank you for having me.
get you on your next episode.